The Knicks surprised everybody this afternoon when they traded two of their five best players in RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley for Raptors wing OG Anunoby. In today's playoff landscape, there may not be a player more valued than the two-way forward who brings an elite skill, especially on the defensive ends. Still, the trade has been met with disappointment and sorrow by fellow New Yorkers. I, for one, being in that environment, understand Knicks fans do not like this move right now. So in this video, we're going to highlight the pros and the cons, and let you decide who won the trade, and most notably, was this the right decision by the Knicks to make this move in the middle of the season? The right place to start off would be with the former number 3 overall pick in RJ Barrett. The Knicks understood RJ Barrett would never be the star they once envisioned. Back in 2018, he was the number 1 ranked prospect in a class which included Zion Williamson. But together at Duke, it became abundantly clear Zion had a way higher feel for the game. From making kick-out reads off of drives, when the defense collapsed, to playing within the flow of a structured offense. Barrett never developed that intangible skill, and through 4 years in the NBA, he struggled to play off of other stars due to his inconsistent offensive performance. Now yes, it is true RJ is a frequent 20-point per game scorer as a starter on a playoff team, but over the last 3 years, he has been the least efficient volume scorer in the NBA, while not bringing the complementary value to thrive in a third or fourth role. Hence, it makes him a tough player to build around and somebody in a winning environment that's not that scalable a player. I, for one, am just cautiously optimistic after his sophomore season. While Barrett has seldomly played in the right role, he's simply never gotten better in the NBA. Finishing for a player at his archetype is imperative, but his wonky touch, struggles to go right, and tunnel vision at times make him a type of forward who actually shoots worse than most guards within 4 feet. Shooting 55% at the cup in year 5 is honestly inexplicable. And my second criticism would be Barrett hasn't been able to pair that up along with a mid-range game. Even a floater package when shots at the rim are not really accessible. So dating back to his poor play last regular season, after earning an $100 million contract, I felt this moment was inevitable. The Knicks would trade Barrett, and he would be better off developing in a lower pressure environment with more opportunity. Who was once dubbed Star J in the face of the New York Knicks before ever even playing a game in 2020. Nonetheless, for Toronto, his homecoming is an awesome story, and it's going to give him the fresh start that he truly needs. Now, on the other hand, trading Emmanuel Quickley is the far more polarizing part of the deal. The Knicks' decision to not extend Quickley this October was a surprise, coming off an electric 6-man campaign in year 3. IQ is just not your typical combo guard. While lethal pull-up shooter at 6'3", he's the type of guard who can shapeshift a team's defense. His on-ball presence, screen navigation, and help and recover instincts to make plays off the ball at times made him an anchor in that second unit. And last year, it emphasized an elite bench, which would help the Knicks get back into that playoff crucible. Plus, I would argue with how well Quickley played last year when he got starting opportunity, he was oftentimes their third most important player or third best player above Mitchell Robinson and RJ. But the Knicks bench was not why they beat the Cavaliers last year. Sure, it helped to have Josh Hart, of course, but they beat the Cavaliers in 5 games because their star player in Jalen Brunson outshined the stars on the other side. With an injured Julius Randle, it was Quentin Grimes and IQ who never found any sort of rhythm from a night-in, night-out basis. On the other hand, that was when RJ Barrett picked up his play and became a pretty big positive in last year's playoff run. That was the first time we've really seen him cut and relocate consistently off the ball, and that helped him get more open threes, which he hit at a 35% clip. We all knew at times the likes of Barrett and Grimes could deliver, but it was the inconsistency which limited the Knicks' closing 5 from elevating Brunson and Randle. Especially in that Miami series, I can't tell you how many times Jalen Brunson would get double teamed or trapped and had to play through a ton of adversity, which he more than lived up to. And I, for one, believe if given the proper supporting cast, Jalen Brunson could surely be the best player on a Knicks team which could go to the conference finals. And his lack of size, which became a huge talking point over the last 2.5-3 weeks after Becky Hammon's comments, is surely notable, but far from the end-all be-all. So acquiring OG Anunoby is arguably what the Knicks needed exactly. Over the last 3 years, they've been an average defense in the regular season that lacks that suffocating point-of-attack defender to throw onto a Jason Tatum or Jimmy Butler in the conference finals. And versus a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, having the size to play a physically imposing style is pretty necessary. To me, OG Anunoby, if he embraces his role, could easily be the Knicks' Andrew Wiggins. And Anunoby is a proven playoff performer who can never be played off the floor because of how versatile a player he is. The only catch is he can't create a shot for himself really at all, and putting the ball in his hands would not necessarily be any source of offense. A consistently knockdown shooter off the catch, he can play in any sort of lineup. As a good cutter who finishes about 73% at the rim, he gives me a bit of those Mikal Bridges vibes early in his time with Phoenix. On the defensive end, you're talking about arguably the best isolation defender in the sport. Somebody you can put on an island one-on-one and trust he's gonna do his thing. Forcing errant passes, tough shots late in the clock, and last year leading the NBA in deflections and steals without a rim protector in the first half of the season. So for New York, not having Mitchell Robinson for the rest of this season is surely a huge blow. But Isaiah Hartenstein was better than anything the Raptors had up until last year's trade deadline, and Anunoby was still a first-team All-NBA defender. So he's clearly the type of ceiling raiser where he's going to pester the opposing team's best player no matter what position he plays. With Immanuel Quickley, he's a wonderful six-man, but his value in the playoffs was marginalized due to that lack of size and versatility to guard up on positions. So it makes understandable the Knicks prefer the more versatile defensive anchor. It's also important to note, building championship teams seldomly happens just overnight. There's a reason why every team in the NBA wants OJ. For contenders, he is a crucial piece on both ends of the floor, and he brings the Knicks one step closer to making the big one when the time is right. I feel like many of the people who don't like this move for the Knicks are the same people who are trying to say they should acquire Zach LaVine or Pascal Siakam just to add more star power because they don't have enough right now. Yet those are the types of moves that the Knicks in 2017 would make out of desperation to try to build themselves out of the gutter. But today, the Knicks have built a pretty good team based off of moves that everybody hated. Signing Jalen Brunson was labeled a huge overpay. Julius Randle was scoffed at when the team acquired him, and trading Porzingis basically broke the hearts of every Knicks fan. Yet it was those three moves, the first two by their old regime, and the most recent one by Leon Rose, which has actually gotten them out the gutter, putting them in this type of position. When we look back now, we laugh at the criticism of the Jalen Brunson signing, because he continued to get better, and he turned out to be exactly what the Knicks have been looking for the last decade. With OG Anunoby, he is the type of player that does not come around very often in the trade market. And when you can acquire him for 0 first-round picks, retaining all first that you own the next 3 years, it still gives you the luxury to make another move, a bigger trade, to get that star when he's actually available on the market. The only loss for New York is the shot creation that Immanuel Quickley would bring, but at the deadline, you can find that every year in a more cost-effective option. What New York told you is they would rather pay their starting small forward $100 million this offseason when he's going to decline his player option than their six-man $100 million. When Anunoby is just 2 years older at 26 years old, and their bench is still going to be pretty darn good with Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes, and next year Isaiah Hartenstein back at center. My one worry would be OG Anunoby's only played 60 games once the last 3 years, since 2020. And if you're Tom Thibodeau's favorite player, he might play you 45 minutes a game. However, Nick Nurse was already running his players into the ground years before. So while Anunoby has missed some time over the years, I hope in New York it doesn't get much worse, and it really shouldn't make much of a difference. These are two coaches that love to play their starters as much as possible. And defensively, I think it's important we emphasize how special a player OG is. With a 7'2" wingspan, strong as a bull in his upper body, he has great hands and reactive speed to help him recover a little bit, but the light footwork to guard just about any player. You want to throw him on Dame through a switch, no problem, he's going to hold his own. You put him on Jason Tatum, forcing a grenade to a teammate so late in the shot clock that the Knicks defense once again could become a real strength and not just an asset at times. Their only loss in this trade to me was Immanuel Quickley's shot creation, which can always be found at the deadline. In 2021, New York would trade a couple of second-round picks and Dennis Smith Jr. for Derrick Rose. And in the playoffs, he became their go-to scorer in that Hawks run. This year, I think the name to watch would be Malcolm Brogdon, who's older, but not necessarily somebody you'd have to break the bank for. I'm sure Knicks fans feel uneasy about losing two of their fan favorites, somebody you have the jersey of, but it doesn't really matter. The Celtics have been the most heartless team in the NBA the last 5 years, trading players without any emotion involved. And it's probably the biggest secret behind building the best lineup out in the East. The Celtics traded their fan favorite in Marcus Smart, and it turned out to be for the better as they acquired an extra first-round pick and moved off of him at the perfect time. And to me, I don't think you should mistake movement with progress. This was the trade the Atlanta Hawks should have made a year and a half ago. Instead, they traded 3 firsts for DeJounte Murray, who never fit what they truly needed, and actually turned out to be a bad defender, believe it or not, for a guy that made the all defensive team at 21 years old. For Atlanta, they made that trade just to say to the fan base, oh, we made a trade, we got the star you're all clamoring for, but in reality, it sunk their contention window. So for the Knicks, their patience will pass up teams like Atlanta and Chicago, who acquire stars at desperation, to wave it up in the air saying, look at what we did, but they make those moves without any real foresight and end up strangle-holding their resources when Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Donovan Mitchell do become available. So for me, I'll go as far as call this Knicks trade a win-win, and where the Raptors won on the value fronts, getting 2 for 1, and specifically a guy in Emmanuel Quickley who's going to fit in well there, New York got the most important piece. Somebody with a consistent complementary value RJ Barrett would never bring. But the defensive versatility, Emmanuel Quickley didn't have the size for it. So if I have to be the one to talk up this trade for the Knicks fans out there who are not feeling so good today, I'll be that guy. And if you still disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and follow for more content like this. Peace. Have a great day.